You're listening to Bedroom Beethovens, where notable music makers break down stories accompanied by songs and melodies documenting growth through their 10,000-hour journey. And me? Well, my name is Cello, your host.
I am a bedroom Beethoven.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 106 of the podcast. You know, it's no surprise to see a big movie or television star above the title in a Broadway show, but given the love of musical storytelling and pop culture, it's always a pleasure to see the formula in reverse. From big belting his way to Tony Awards to acting on the big screen, this 10,000-hour journey focuses from the stage to the studio. My guest this week, well, Joshua Henry, why don't you just tell them who you are?
You know, I am what you call a Broadway star. I've been doing Broadway for the last 15 years in shows like Hamilton, In the Heights. I just this last year finished doing a movie called Tick, Tick, Boom, directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda. And now I am a recording artist. And music has been a really important thing to me. Well, my first love, really, since I was a kid. And now is a time where I've decided that I'm really going to focus on it and give it everything that it deserves.
Not much I can really say about Joshua Henry that hasn't been said already. Maybe a future EGOT. You know, if he conquers music, there really is no ceiling that he can't burst through. So I'm really fortunate to be able to get it on the ground floor of his recording artist career to talk a bit about how everything goes hand in hand with one another and the lessons he has learned throughout. Before we speak, though, I just want to remind you that to support this podcast, if you enjoy it, there's a few things you can do. The easiest being is to rate the podcast 5 stars wherever it is you stream it, and leave some good feedback, or head on over to the website, bedroombeethovens.com, and buy a shirt or poke around. And lastly, I know these times are hard, but patreon.com/bedroombeethovens is the quickest, easiest way to support this show. No pressure, because like Joshua Henry, I enjoy what I do, and we have a passion for what we do here, so the train isn't going to stop. Thank you to everyone. Hope you're safe. Hope you're just having a good week. Enjoy this conversation with Joshua Henry, and don't forget to pick up his new EP on February the 12th.
I'm going to be a father. I don't know when this airs, but in 10 weeks, going to have twins. So I'm going to be a father 3 times over.
Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you. And right now I am just in this moment of as I guess it's because I'm about to be a father again, just having so much gratitude for being able to be an artist, having my music out there, my voice, and exactly what I want to put out into the world while actually putting something my wife puts some other life into the world that I had a little something to do with. So it's a real big, fruitful moment right now in every way. Even though, we're coming off a really hard year, there's still incredible things around. So I'm just counting my blessings right now.
And with this growing family and everything that's going on in the world, are you still in your Manhattan apartment?
You know, I am one of what's the movie, The Last of the Mohicans? We decided to stay. We're staying right now. We love where we live in New York. And until further notice, we said we're going to just ride this year out and see how we feel after that. but I just love New York too much, and thankfully we are able to be here.
I can understand that. I read somewhere that New Yorkers are $1 billion behind rent collectively due to the pandemic. So if you come out of your apartment and you start walking a few blocks, what is the general feeling in New York nowadays? Is there tension in the air? Are they optimistic? Do you sense things going back to normal anytime soon?
You know what, Marcelo? You when I walk these streets right now, I think there's an acceptance. A lot of restaurants closed, and my heart is broken for a lot of my just neighborhood mom and pop shops that are just no more. They just can't make it through this winter. At the same time, there's this optimism that things are starting to turn around. And so for the people that have stayed, and now people are starting to trickle, and I really mean that, trickle back in, but the arts, we're starting to get in wind that something might happen this year in terms of live performances. It's not a guarantee. But I think, look, with this new leadership right now, I think there's just a new sense of possibility in the air, both for New Yorkers and for artists. That's refreshing.
I know you got this music career. What I wanted to kind of do is kind of focus a little bit on the Broadway stuff so people can kind of understand the man you are and who you are today to appreciate the musician. So I read something, and I'm pretty sure it didn't go this quick, but maybe it did. You, in high school, you never been in a school production up until that point, and your high school choir teacher named Birgit convinces you to audition. You get the lead. Your performance makes her cry, and she convinces you to do this for a living, and so you do. And if that's true, and it happened that quick, that's spectacular.
Well, yes, yeah, you're right. That is exactly how it went down, and I thank Birgit. Like every couple of months, I just call her a text and just say thank you, because I had no idea that I had no other plan. I was going to be, do what my mom did. She works in an accounting firm, and yeah, that's exactly how it happened. And if it was not for Birgit, I would not have embarked into musical theater. I didn't even know the term musical theater, didn't know it existed, but I went, the school that I got into that she convinced me to audition for was the University of Miami, the only college I auditioned for. And I got in, and as soon as I got in, Marcelo, like I knew I could just be obsessed with the arts, everything, singing, acting, dancing, and I was already obsessed with music. So I found the thing that I could just wake up every morning and do for free, and that So I know I'm really blessed to have found that super early, and from there, my love of the arts and just it just has not stopped. And that was 20 years ago now.
Which route did you go at the University of Miami? Because I know there's a difference if you get a BA or a BFA. Do you want theater among other academic classes, or do you want to live, work, and breathe theater?
My conservatory, there were two ways, and I was in the School of Music. So if I wasn't in the acting class or dancing class, I was in music theory class. I was in ear training class, music history class. So I didn't have many academic classes. I had my some English and some psych classes that I didn't do so well in, and had to stay after an entire summer to finish up. Because honestly, like I said, I knew exactly what fed me. I found out just that freshman year, but some of my other classes suffered, and it took me a while to find my bearings and not just be, I had to focus on these other things outside of the thing that I love, outside of my artistic classes. It took me a while and sort of bumped around there. I had to get some tutors to get by through my college years, honestly. And, but it all worked out.
Was your mom skeptical? I mean, obviously you moved to New York at a young age to pursue acting, but was she kind of secretly hoping you'd have an academia background in math or accounting, or was the jury still out on going to college and making a living off of this?
If my mom was skeptical, she hid it really well. Maybe she was an actress, because she just didn't. Like, my Jamaican parents, look, that really doesn't happen. You wonder what? Act and sing for what? What you gotta do? But they really did support me. All I remember is while I was in conservatory, all the way up to like my first 2 years of living in New York, my mom would call me and just be like, "You sure everything good?" Like I would call her, and I remember my first year living in New York. I would do all these things for free. I would just try to get out to different writers and composers and sing their music. And she was like, "Are they not paying you?" And I'm like, "Mom, no, they're not. But trust me, I'm investing into who I am and my artistry here in New York. I'm making a community and I'm making a home here. And this is what you do." And it took a while for her to sort of see, and as I booked show after show, she got more comfortable. I think the first time she was really like, "Oh, okay," was when she came and saw me in the Heights. And I was, in the ensemble, but I went on for a role that I was understudying, the role of Benny in the Heights that Chris Jackson originated. I think she really got it then. She was like, "Oh, okay." She saw how the audience responded. She saw how comfortable I was. And there's nothing like letting when you understand that your parents understand that you're okay, and that even if you're cooking egg salad and tuna fish, you're living your dream, and there's a little bit of evidence of that, then you're like, okay, I'm just glad that they get it.
Please promise me you'll guard this with your life. Abuela, I've never seen this much money in my life. The fireworks, the fireworks, the fireworks, the fireworks at the night sky in Washington. The fireworks, look at the fireworks at the night sky in Washington Heights.
Did Godspell come before In the Heights?
Yeah, Godspell was the first professional show I did outside of school. And that was in the fall of 2006. So I was really fortunate to have a gig coming into New York. That's super rare. Even though it was only, 6 weeks, it was a gig and it was a really great show. So from there, there's this a friend of mine who I just did Tick Tick Boom with Lin-Manuel with. His name is Robin De Jesus. He was in Godspell with me, and he was doing this little off-Broadway show called In the Heights. And there was an opening for an understudy role to understudy Benny. And he was like, "Yo, you should really come in. This show has got some, this really cool writer. His name is Lin-Manuel Miranda." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Hip hop, salsa. Like, I'll audition for that." I go in there and, Lin-Manuel's behind the table, Tommy Kail, and it's their first big thing. Like, they haven't arrived yet, but I land that show while I was doing Godspell. And then, from there, the ball started rolling and, you're getting in front of more and more performers and more creative teams. Yeah. So it got started that way, but it started with Godspell, and one thing led to another. You just keep saying yes, and you keep doing the best work that you can, and keep focusing on growth. That's what I did my first year and a half here in New York.
Yeah, you were working really hard in college in New York, and at the same time, Lin-Manuel was working really hard in Connecticut and wrote In the Heights during his sophomore year at university. And the first thing that he makes out the gate receives 4 Tony Awards, a Grammy, a Lucille Lortel Award, an Obie Award. So you take him, and the universe puts you in the mix, and the rest is history.
When you say it like that, it's just such a quick summation. And I love hearing that. And it's true. But what strikes me about what you just said is that the time that it took, that he was writing this at university, and it took over 8 years for In the Heights to become the success that it was. Being in the room with him over the last 15 years and understanding that it took another 7 to write Hamilton before I even got involved in it, you really get a respect for process. And as artists, you really start to understand that, like, you can't rush this stuff. You can't rush what it takes to get to a certain level. All you can do is measure. Well, for me, is measure in growth. I'm sure Lin-Manuel will tell you, like, he had one draft of In the Heights at one point, and then he had another draft, and he's like, yes, these songs are improving. As an actor and as a singer now, as a recording artist, some of these songs I had for 3 years, and I would write another stanza in 6 months and be like, yes, I got that. And one thing leads to another. If you're in this for more than 15 minutes of fame, you understand the OGs will tell you this is not some, let me see if I can make this happen. You're in this, for as long as you're in this, you give it all you have and you try to just grow every second. And Lin-Manuel really taught me that, seeing his journey and coming up alongside him, and really taught me a lot of lessons.
Well, you were attracted to it because you saw things about yourself in it, like, the musical genres that you gravitate to. I know that when you were in college, you were studying kind of the black actors before you to kind of get like a blueprint and a read on them. I'm kind of unfamiliar with Broadway. Are there a lot of black actors and actresses involved in Broadway today? Has it become a lot more progressive in the last decade or so? I know you were the first black actor to star as Billy Bigelow.
That is true. Yes. Okay. You've done your, all right, Marcelo. I would say, yeah, there are a fair amount of black performers here. I studied them before I got here. I studied the ones that were, that had been doing it. Michael McElroy, Chuck Cooper, Norm Lewis, and Brian Stokes Mitchell. I was in the music library at school studying their voices, trying to sound like them in a lot of ways before I got to New York. And, I'll say one of the first things that one of the people that I was blessed enough to be in a show with is Chuck Cooper, who's been in this game as a leading Broadway man for years. And I asked him, what are two things that I need to really, I'm like 22 years old. I'm like, just give me two pieces of advice. And the first thing he said is, look, put $5 away for every check you get and try not to ever look at it. And the second thing he said was, create your own work. Create your own work. And I really took that to heart, just as a lot of my colleagues were, Lin-Manuel was. And so for me, hearing that from this OG, Chuck Cooper, I understood that I have to keep creating. And that's where the power in this business is. A lot of the black actors that I know right now, that's sort of, especially in this moment, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to write as much as possible. We love performing like, all performers do. But, if you look at the Tyler Perrys, the Shonda Rhimes, the power in entertainment and in Broadway is in writing and telling your own narrative, controlling that. And so that's what I've been putting a lot of my energy into in a lot of ways, as a recording artist and as a writer of plays and musicals and screenplays. So that's what I've been about, especially in the last year or so, and a lot of my colleagues as well.
Yeah, I know that Lin-Manuel, when he was like 18 or 19, he was very conscious of the way Latinos have been portrayed before on stage. He was Bernardo in sixth grade. He directed West Side Story his senior year in high school. I think he saw Paul Simon's The Cateman his senior year in high school, and he said that it broke his heart. Not so much for the show, but the fact that it was 40 years after West Side Story and Latinos still had knives in their hands and they were gang members. So he made a real effort to update that typecast with something more progressive and realistic. So I love
because
to
a lot
see
of people
it.
just don't know. A lot of people, here in New York City, they never been north of Harlem, so they didn't understand what In the Heights was, what Washington Heights was. I in 2016, I did a show called Shuffle Along, which is a revival of a musical that was produced, written, and starring all Black folks. And it talked the way that they spoke, talked about their struggles, and used the syncopated rhythms that they used in the music that they listened to and wrote. And, that's how you take control of your narrative and let people know, let people know exactly who you are and why it's important to care.
And all that success, it probably lent itself to eventually the Hamilton mixtape, where everyone from Tupac to Queen Latifah, The Roots, Alicia Keys, Busta Rhymes were part of. Were there any conversations of having you participate
in the Hamilton mixtape? Oh,
Yes.
I think at that time, perfectly honest, they were like, yo, let's get these big, music acts right now involved in this. So no, I would say at that time, no. But I'll say that I think it was really smart, because what they did is get the people who in hip hop and R&B are hitting in mainstream music, right? So like when you do that, you expand the world of musical theater, you expand the genre, you open it up, and then you garner respect for it in a way that, it's not just this club of musical theater. Now Hamilton is literally mainstream. I think the album has gone, if it's not diamond, it's like at least 5 times platinum. That was really smart. Although, it would have been nice to get on the track. I can't complain though, because I did that show. I did Aaron Burr in Hamilton for a year and a half. I opened the Chicago cast, and I did it, for 9 months in LA and San Francisco. So I had an amazing run with Hamilton.
Yeah, I get it. It's all about the names. It's just when I heard that you were going to be a recording artist, I was thinking like, anyone who would get on stage and belt out Rodgers and Hammerstein songs, they got to be nasty talented. Why don't we hear about more people making the transition to a music career? It's not like a TV actor compared to a movie actor, right? I don't even know what a good analogy would be.
That's a really good question. I mean, there are. Look, I've one of what I've put a lot of energy into is keeping in touch with music. And by music, I mean not just musical theater. I mean listening to the radio, what the charts are doing, and actually being in bands throughout the last 25 years of my life. And I think, when you stay connected to music, you understand you get respect for R&B, for hip hop, for soul, and yes, for Rodgers and Hammerstein as well, the Gershwins. And so my love for music has been the thing that has allowed me to do these different shows, thankfully making a name for myself as someone that's really versatile. So if you want to call me to do American Idiot on Broadway when Billy Joe Armstrong is starring, then I can get you that sound. Or opera. And now as people are finding out, both as in the way that I sing and as a writer, that I can do these different things.
Starry nights, city lights coming down over me. Skyscrapers, stargazers in my head. And
I'm glad that I kept my finger to the pulse of what was actually happening in music and not just in musical theater. I think it's helped me a lot.
That's what I'm talking about. Because I was thinking you can't just take the lead actor in Les Mis and put him in a studio with Quincy Jones and you have a hit album. There's got to be more to it than that.
There really is. You got to really come into the. I tell you right now, I've been in the business for 15, 16 years now in entertainment, and when it came to being a recording artist, I come into it like a child. This is a world that I don't know, and I want to be surrounded by people that do know. Even though I'm a great musician, I'm a great singer, but it's a whole art unto itself. And I'm not just going to think just because I've got Tony nominations and Grammy nominations in this world that I know how to do this. I go into sessions, I keep my mouth shut, and I learn like I'm learning how to speak. And then I speak up when I'm supposed to. But I respect music, the world of music so much, and I'm so excited to get even deeper into it.
Well, the character that you played in Hamilton is one that Leslie Odom Jr. also played. Leslie Odom Jr. just released a big Christmas album, and the secret sauce of that project is the secret sauce in yours as well. And I don't think that could be a coincidence. So Nephew is a Grammy Award-winning producer, composer. He's worked with Michael Jackson, Kendrick Lamar, Justin Bieber. So, I mean, if you're going to work with a producer, that's not a bad resume.
Let me tell you something. That nephew got me right. He's a phenomenal producer. Last year he was in LA and I'm in New York, and we're sending tracks back and forth. I was so inspired by the ideas that he would send over. It was just a dream collaboration. And I'll say that one of the things that he really pushed me to do was to use my entire voice. And when I mean that, when I say that, I mean from like the depth of my baritone richness to the highest falsetto that I got. He really encouraged me to use the entire thing, which is a different message that you get than when you usually go into places. I've been in record labels to say, "Hey, what's going on? Can we work here?" And they're like, "Oh, so you want to be Brian McKnight? Oh, okay. So are you trying to be Usher? Oh, you trying to be?" But Nephew really encouraged me not to think like that. And so the result in the music that I'm releasing now, in this EP that's coming out very soon, is you get a lot of different colors. You definitely understand that the lane is a soulful R&B, but there's a lot more colors than just staying in one lane. So Nephew really helped me in that way.
Well, every song on the album except one was your musical idea. So that must have been a doozy of an idea that kept the entire project from being your idea. So tell me about that anomaly that kind of crept in.
You know what? Yeah, this song called Stand Up that Nephew and this incredible writer named Sebastian Cole, who also works a lot with Leslie Odom Jr., he wrote that song. And it was originally released by the OJs in 2014, I believe. But I heard the demo of this song, Stand Up. And, the first lyric, "Turn off the TV to avoid the news." It just gripped me.
Turn off the TV to avoid the news. Look up to heaven cause I'm so confused. Another child lost in the city. No place to go.
Because, there've just been times, as we all have, where you just don't want to hear any bad news. But it's not a pessimistic idea. It's in this song. It's an optimistic one that says, I know that if we stand up together, we can make something incredible happen. That's a message that I can completely get behind. It's the energy that I want to try to put it out into the world, not one of apathy, but that we can grow into what we don't know. And it's possible. It's possible to make your community, wherever you are, your office, your home office, a better place. If we lean into love and stand up and take actions to make the world better.
I had no idea the OJs were making music as recent as 7 years ago.
Homie, I didn't know either. And I was like, oh, you better have staying power. All right, come on, OJs.
So when you're in Hamilton, you're singing the words written by someone else, or any production of that matter. And now you're making music, and the content within is about you. It's about your wife. It's about your relationships, the ups and downs. So now you're vulnerable, and you're sharing a part of you. And now that you've shared your music with the world, your heart, your feelings, do you ever see yourself going back to being a private person, or have you found joy in sharing yourself through music, acting, and more with the general public? Like maybe you learned about a whole new side of yourself.
That's a great question. I found so much freedom in writing this album that I haven't felt in doing shows, because, it's completely myself. And I've been in a relationship for 15 years now, 16 years going on with my wife. I'm a father, I've got a 3-year-old now. It just feels good to have gone through some stuff, gone through some hard times, lived a lot of life, have a lot of experience, and be okay with sharing. There's just so much power in it. I'm a Brene Brown fan, and she talks a lot about vulnerability and what it means. And there's so much power in being able to say, hey, can you hold me? I need to be held, but please don't hold me back, which was the first song that I came out with last year, my first debut single. There's so much power in being able to talk about my son, and not knowing all the answers to being a good father, but still being excited about whatever the future holds, although I know I might mess it up in some way. There's power in talking about that. I know that it's been therapeutic for me, and I hope it is for other people, but I also hope that they can also jam along too. You know what I mean? Like it's one thing to be talking about these myself, but I want to make that, hopefully, I want to make that popular. Let's make vulnerability the new thing. I think we talk about that word a lot right now, but I certainly have embraced it. And look, well, if the time comes when I can't walk around my neighborhood, and we'll address that, if the music pops off the way that we hope it will. But right now, it feels really good.
I have no doubt, man. I love the songs that I have heard. And so far we've covered the hard work, the journey that has gotten you to where you are, your support systems, and the people you've worked with. I think all that's left is anything that I missed about the album. You have the floor to tell people where they can find you, where they can pre-order the album, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, the album is called Guarantee, this EP that's going to come out. And I'm just so excited about it. You can get it anywhere that you listen to music. I'll just add that it's been a really big growth moment for me to step into this arena as a recording artist, one that I've been prepping myself for a long time. And now the moment is right. And just to all the artists out there that think about redefining themselves or following through on a dream that they've had for years, I would say just go for it. You never know. You're just a couple strokes of a pen, a couple notes away from realizing a dream. Whether you hear a clap or get a Grammy nod or not, it's not about that. But it feels so good to be releasing my heart and saying what I believe, doing the thing that I believe is one of the big reasons that I'm here for, is to just share my heart through music. So I that's what this moment is for me.
Well, Joshua, I'm very grateful that you stopped by. You had your Broadway debut at 23, and by the time you were 26, you had your first Tony nom. And I'm hoping you release your album this year, and in less than 3 years, you get that Grammy Award, man. That's what I'm throwing out in the universe.
Marcelo, I like the sound of that. I like speak it. Yeah, man.
I appreciate you stopping by, man. Thank you so much.
Great to talk to you, brother. All the best.